Grow into success with no regrets when you work with Dr. Boom.
Greetings.
Hello.
My greeting.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 148 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. As of Tuesday this week, we've officially had 2 days inside of Dr. Boom's lab, and we've had some time to get our hands on some of the experiments lying around. It's a new Boom, it's a new day, it's a new life, it's a new meta, and we're all so excited to talk about it today. From the Maelstrom, Louisiana, it's me, Appa. Joining us from Gadsden, New York, it's RidiculousHat.
It's the Boomsday. Well, yesterday was the Boomsday. It's the day... No! We have learned many things about this expansion. The main thing we have learned is there is nothing to whisper about. There are no whispers. This expansion is very loud and big.
You haven't played against Token Druid, I guess.
What whispers do you feel when you get hit by those tokens for 5?
I mean, they're wisps. They're whispering at me.
But wisps don't have to whisper. That's stereotyping. You know
and
what?
Last, but certainly not
I'm going to say it. That's racist.
In California, it's Botticus.
Oh man, I'm so excited to record tonight. As Hat was saying before, the cast, we're all, I think, half really excited to talk about Boomsday, and also half just really wanted to get back in there and play some more decks because there's so much, just so much awesome stuff going on. I'm excited.
Sorry, Hat. I love you.
It's fine. I don't mind.
All right, so Concede is supported in large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head on over to patreon.com/Concede. Big thanks to our new patrons, Corey S. and Ronan. We appreciate y'all a lot, and y'all help make the show a little bit easier to do. All right, so how about we get into some Sweet Ladder? So I'm excited to talk about what we've been playing.
Well, then talk about it. How's your ladder going, Appa? You go first.
All right, I guess I'll go first. So I've made it my goal to spend the first week playing nothing but my own deck lists for each class. I don't want to go on Twitter and find lists. I don't want to go to Beer Brick or Hearthstone Top Decks or anything. I just want to forge my own little adventure through each class because I want to find interactions for myself that people may have missed or kind of learn about the meta in my own way. I feel like what usually happens, what's usually the cycle of a new expansion is on the first day, the big streamers get on Twitch and they start trying new stuff. And some of those decks are good. And then people grab onto those and play nothing but those for the first week until people start hitting them with Q blocks and stuff. They're quit playing nonsense. Stop it. So I want to kind of stray away from playing what's popular right now and kind of do my own thing. And decks I've had so far that I've built so far are Spell Hunter with Secret Plans, makes it a little more consistent. Death Rattle Rogue is nice. Even Elemental Shaman was fun. Mech Paladin felt pretty strong. And I've also played Tempo Mage with unexpected results. So definitely have a way to go in terms of getting through each of the classes. But by the end of the week, I want to have 2 or 3 decks that I've played a decent amount from each of the 9 classes. But I've been having a lot of fun. How about you, Hat?
But wait, how did the Tempo Mage go?
It was unexpectedly good.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the results, but you didn't say what they were.
I hit people with fireballs.
Okay, that seems pretty expected. You're against a Tempo Mage.
8 damage fireballs is
okay.
Expected.
I didn't. Yeah, it's like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects it. So where Appa wants to not go on Twitter and get Decklists and not go on Beer Brick or Hearthstone Top Decks, where Evident works really hard and doesn't sleep for 3 days, or HS Pro Decks on Twitter, or Robot Moon / HS Replays, or Meta Legend, the next host of this podcast, that's me, does enjoy just taking all the deck lists that I can find and hoarding them like a big pile of dragon gold. Or in this case, like scientist gold? What do scientists hoard? Potions?
Like a 2/1 death rattle that draws a card.
Yes, similar, but like draws a deck list or begs for deck lists during the show in Twitch chat, which I'm currently doing. Anyways, point here is I have not seen a meta with this much goofiness in ever. The list of decks that I played the first day, in one day, were Death Rattle Rogue, Flark Hunter, not a joke, actual Flark Hunter, 2 different lists. I was just like, I don't give a flark, I'm going to try this out. Then we had Mechathune Warlock, we had Mechathune Druid, we had Malygos Druid, we had Token Druid, we had Infinite Boar Combo Priest. I just built Reven Bob Man, which is Rebobs and Even Shaman. I just took all the syllables and jammed them together because it seemed appropriate. Shuffle Miracle, full-on Demon Zoo, not full-on Demon Zoo, like half Demon Zoo, Pogo Rogo, Odd Mech Paladin, Odd Death Rattle Rogue. I don't even know what's going on. The first game I played in this meta, I died to Mechathune Priest. The first game. That was my experience coming into the Boomsday, and I would not have it any other way. There's a lot of really interesting strategies out there. There's a lot of predictably good strategies, but there's a lot of stuff that's cropping up. And Appa, I agree that the day one meta is often defined by inertia, along with what pro streamers are playing, and that's why we've seen so much Zoo, combined with the fact that it punches all these greedy decks. But Zoo is not hard to beat, and this particular incarnation of Zoo is better than it was, but so is every other deck. It hasn't felt oppressive, it's felt decidedly beatable. And I've really enjoyed the variety and zaniness. When I've played against 3 different Mechathune decks in the first 3 days, the first 2 days, first 1 day, and they all seem good, it's supposed to be a joke. But the punchline is that it was real. I don't know, man. But
Yeah, like you were saying, the day one deck seemed like it was obviously Zoo. It's definitely the easiest to build and to upgrade, and it got a lot of upgrades, and it powered up a lot, but so did a lot of the other existing decks and classes. So it feels like everything got stronger, but it seems like every class kind of got stronger evenly, if that makes sense. Or oddly, if you're Paladin.
Ah.
I don't know. I think it's way too early to tell. I mean,
Well, that's just
right
my
now,
kind of impressions.
yeah,
right
I mean,
now.
it's just super, super early right now, so everybody's still trying stuff. We're obviously going to have to wait a little while before we really see how things pan out, but I just love how much different types of combo decks are going on right now. That's my favorite type of deck to play, so I'm excited to try all of them, even though I haven't really had the opportunity to. Or were you done with your ladder? Because I could just get into mine, I guess. Pat.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about it and about this meme that you created. We're hitting me in Twitch chat with.
Okay, so I got home yesterday. I started up the stream. I opened the packs, and then Littlefoot was like, "Hey, you want 80 gold?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." And I know the perfect deck to play, so I got to play my my Tess Rogue deck with espionage in it, and he was playing Wizbang, so his deck was a little slow, and I got to draw a bunch of 1-mana shaman spells and win. So that was cool. And then I really wanted to try the Reno Lock combo thing with Glinda and Mechwarper and Ziliax. And it took forever to get it to go off. I was really sad because I kept playing against Mill Rogues and they were burning the combo pieces, or Death Lord was pulling the combo pieces out of my deck, and I was really sad. But I eventually got it to work, and it was cool. And then the first standard deck I built to go on the ladder was what I call Burst Druid. Unfortunately, it did not have Cairn or Mukla in it, which means
Botticus,
that
he sent me the list, and the first thing I said was no Mukla, fake news.
I mean, it's
But-
if you build a burst druid and it doesn't have a 3-mana 5/5 and a 6-mana 4/5 that makes another 4/5, is it really burst druid, Botticus? Is it really?
So anyway, the Burster deck is minions with big butts, minions that make multiple minions, and Savage Roar, Branching Paths, and buff spells, and Void Rippers. Void Ripper is very good with Crypt Lord. If you haven't done that before, that feels real nice. I got to kill somebody with a 11 toughness Crypt Lord. Well, 11 attack Crypt Lord after I switched it.
I got to fireball somebody with 3 goblin bombs right before the podcast.
Like, what is this
Yeah.
meta? Do you hear yourselves talking? What's going on?
So it's just been a lot of fun, but every time I try out some funky decks, like I was playing the Death Rattle Rogue deck, somehow the Death Rattle Rogue I was playing with the Cube and the Leroy, people are actually playing it and doing well with it, which I don't know how that happened, but that's a thing. And but the problem was felt like I was losing as much, if not more, than I was winning. So I got frustrated and then played Cube Block with no new cards and won a lot of games. So that's where I ended up. I'm halfway in between you two. I made some of my own decks and then I pulled a bunch of deck lists that I tried out, and I just want to get back in there and play some more.
Yeah, you were having goofy fun time, and then people ruined your fun. They stepped on your sandcastle, and you
Yeah.
said, "Skull of the Minario."
Stupid freaking Zoolock and their big minions and Kelesethon too makes me sad, Panda. So we have to Hellfire them and make them go away.
Yeah, Defiles are pretty good. Anyways, we're gonna talk a lot about what we're seeing coming up in Decksplanations. So let's pop into this news section and knock this out of the park. Let's get this show going because I'm so excited. I just want to keep talking about what I'm seeing in the decks we're playing. This expansion's been so good so far.
All right, so news highlights for this week. Commence the Boomsday project. That is, as everybody should know by now, Boomsday's here. Yay! So, yeah. So if you haven't yet, make sure you log in. You get 3 free packs and a free class minion legendary. Or you could get Dr. Boom. So you're gonna guarantee a class legendary that is either one of the scientists or Dr. Boom. And then
Dr. Boom is one of the scientists.
Yes, but he's not a minion.
No, but it's not all scientists have to be minions, Botticus.
Right. Okay.
It's like rectangles and squares.
Or wisps and whispering.
Okay. So you can also get another 3 packs. We find out when you log in when Puzzle Lab comes out, which is going to be August 21st. So make sure you log in now and make sure you log in then. Free packs. We all love free packs. We didn't get into how everybody opened. I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about that real quick? How your opening sessions went?
Sure. If only to rub salt in Hat's wounds.
Just go.
I opened 143 packs, and I got 11 legendaries out of them. And then I ended up, just from disenchanting my duplicates, I think around 4,500 dust or something like that. And then I crafted, I think I have only Gloop left in terms of playable, like quote-unquote playable legendaries right now that I have to craft. But other than that, I have every single legendary and every card that I need. So my like pack opening session went really, really well. I think this is the first expansion that I've actually done well when I open packs, and I streamed that, and it was nice because I kept asking Blizzard for more legendaries, and then they kept sending me more legendaries. I opened I got a golden Myra Rot Spring from the pre-purchase bundle, and then I got a golden
jealous.
Myra's Unstable Element from my packs. So I think
jealous.
they're trying to tell me something.
Two very good cards. So my pack openings, I got 12. It was 12 legendaries in 138 packs. So I ran really well. My first 2 legendaries that from packs, the first one was Wizbang, and the second one was Mech-Cthulhu. So I guess they heard me talk about memeing a bunch last week and just decided to give me all the memes right away. The legendaries I got were not necessarily the strong ones outside of Floop, but I'm still can't be upset with the ones that I got. And I had a ton of dust saved up, so I should be fine going into this expansion. Probably still open some more, but as I get more gold. But how'd it go for you, Hat?
I'm also going to open more packs. I promise I don't mean to sound bitter, and I firmly believe variance evens out, and I think it was 2 expansions ago when KNC where my luck was so good it broke my computer. Quite literally, I was opening packs and the computer actually overheated and broke for 4 hours. I fixed it. It's fine. Computer's fine. But I opened 6 in 182 packs. So I pity timered twice on stream, like actually pack 40. And so my goldens were Flark, and I got I don't think it was Solarium. It was a golden. Oh, Zarek, I think. I don't remember. It was a golden. It was definitely Flark was the first golden. I forget what the second golden was. It was something okay. And I did get a Myra. Did not get her unstable element. I got Dr. Boom, and then not really a ton of other legendaries that are seeing a lot of play. I didn't get either the Shaman ones. I had to make both of the Druid ones. I did get a little bit over 5,000 dust. I opened a good amount of epics, and I have to really thank Star Aligner. I'm super happy I opened it, because without that 600 dust from the 3 of them, then I wouldn't have been able to make more legendaries. But I'm still missing the Rogue Spell, both Shaman legendaries, and a couple of other cards I need. So a little disappointing. I do expect variance to even out at some point, but this is, I think, my worst pack opening ever, because a little bit less than 1 out of every 30 packs, it was definitely on the lower side than I was expecting.
Yeah, that's a bit rough. Sorry to hear that, Hat, but
It happens. I would have had extra dust if I hadn't made Golden Miracle Rogue, so I really have nobody to blame but myself.
So we have 2 people on this cast with Golden Miracle Rogues? Too bad I hate golden cards, otherwise I would consider it.
I used to not have any golden cards. I used to hate looking at them. And then I just kind of embraced it. Embraced memes.
Yeah, well, Botticus, I will buy you BNet balance to golden exactly 2 cards in your Miracle Rogue deck. Can you guess which ones they are? Can you guess?
Can't guess. So the Hearthstone Tavern talk was the next news highlight we have on here, and it goes all into Wizbang and some of the questions people had about Wizbang. So they clarified a couple things. Some of these we kind of already knew. Wizbang is going to choose from 18 deck recipes at random, and every time the deck recipes update, Wizbang will update with those new deck recipes. There is no distinguishing animation when you are playing with or against Wizbang. So you're going to queue up a game with Wizbang, but as soon as you get into the game, it's going to display as if it's just a normal game. They were kind of trying to say that when you're playing against somebody, they want it to kind of feel just like you're playing a normal match against a normal person, instead of that right away that they're playing Wizbang. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of would have liked an opening animation for Wizbang, but maybe that's not necessary. And then the last item, which is one of the more important items on here, is that Wizbang will not be allowed in official Blizzard events and tournaments. I know I wanted Hat to kind of discuss about his reasoning behind why it will also not be allowed, why he thinks it should not also be allowed in other tournaments, and I may have a rebuttal, because I understand some aspects of why they don't want it in, but I'm interested to hear what Hat has to say about this.
Okay, so I have feelings. I have many feelings. First of all, Wizbang has gotten the most polarized reaction I've seen from people on the axis of competitive versus non-competitive, and I understand the feeling of, if you are a competitive player and you open a Wizbang, it is effectively useless outside of 400 dust. And if you're limited on the number of packs that you can open, then it feels like it's taking up a slot that is actually tournament unplayable. I can relate to that feeling, but in terms of this card's net positivity, the number of people that I've seen on Twitter that are just like, all I wanted was Wizbang, crafted a golden Wizbang because it gives you 18 golden decks, lets me try out a bunch of things, and the deck recipes aren't that bad. They might not get you the legend, but they're not that bad. They're actually pretty reasonable quality. And it allows people to experience a larger collection with a small dust investment in a way that allows replayability and openness and access to the game at a time where, if we're honest about this set is extremely legendary heavy. Witchwood did a great job of making the game cost less. You really only needed Baku and Gen to build a bunch of decks, and it was much more about the epics and the rares. Almost all of the decks in this expansion so far that we've seen play at least their scientist or their spell, in some cases both. Those are a lot of cards that are needed to craft, but Wizbang doesn't care. If you just make him, you have access to all of it, and it doesn't make you feel like a second-class citizen by showing your opponent, oh, they're playing Wizbang, I know exactly which deck this is from the first card they play. It allows a player to feel like they have a wider collection than they do in a way that is indistinguishable to their opponent. If there was an animation only for you, I think that'd be great. Only for the player with Wizbang. The other player doesn't see it, the opponent doesn't see it, I think that'd be pretty cool. But I agree 100% with the opponent not seeing it because it instantly changes the texture of the game and still makes the player feel like I don't have access to the same game everybody else has access to. And I really like that they're hiding it. Now, their tournament response, I think, is necessary because there's a bunch of things going on here. First of all, it shows up only as Wizbang the Wonderful. That is the name of the deck. That is the portrait of the hero. It will not allow any other cards in there. But the way bans work in a lot of formats, you ban a class that is pre-built, right? The ban is done, the deck is legal. So if you have Shaman, and I ban it, and then you queue up Wizbang, and you start the game as a Shaman, what does the admin do outside of give you a game loss for queuing the wrong deck? They can't just assume it's Wizbang, and they can't, once you get to the point of adjudicating based on the cards that you actually play, it gets really funky. Really funky. So I'd rather that not be there. And if it's last hero standing, it gets way worse. Because last hero standing, you keep playing the deck that you win with. Well, what if you win with Wizbang? Then what's next? It's just chaos. It's just
Then
chaos.
you keep whiz banging them.
But and you can shark that because
so why
what
can't
if
you assume that it's Wizbang?
What do you mean? Why can't you assume that it's Wizbang? Well, it's if you have a class that's illegal.
If you have a class that got banned, but you have Wizbang as still a deck, and then that class gets up, then you have to assume it's Wizbang.
Or you could
right?
assume that a person made a tournament error, which is why rules and admins exist.
Okay, so if they made a tournament, error, then they should get disqualified from the tournament, right? They just get banned and
prove that they
disqualified
didn't
from the tournament.
prove that they didn't do that.
Okay, if they play out the game and they play any cards that are not in a Wizbang deck, then you ban them and remove them from the tournament.
So you're only allowing in open decklist tournaments where you have to track every card. The burden of proof is on either the admins to track every card or on the other player.
You could do closed decklist tournament too. Why wouldn't you be able to do closed decklist tournament?
So what if my other decklist is a copy of a Wizbang deck recipe? That means you just can't ban it.
Wait, so you're telling me that somebody is going to legitimately try to game the system by adding Wizbang deck recipes, and then they're going to queue up a banned deck with this subpar deck recipe to try to get an edge in a tournament setting? You're thinking that this is a realistic thing that's going to happen?
I'm going to say, what is the value in keeping the card in the tournament? Because I'm not going to say that these are ways that a person is going to gain a competitive edge.
People want to play it in tournaments. Like, this is the thing that people are actually saying.
I believe that they want to do it, and I believe the logistics are nightmarish, both in terms of adding a 10th class, in terms of...
that is something I can get behind. I understand that, but I don't think that this whole, somebody might try to queue up a banned deck and then just not play cards that are not in the Wizbang deck recipes, or they're going to try to game the system, like that doesn't work. That doesn't make any logical sense. Why would anybody be trying to cheat, and also be bringing cheat to win, and then also bring Wizbang? Those two things don't go together, right?
Well, first of all, the storyline of being the player to win the tournament with the Wizbang deck would be crazy. But second of all, I don't believe there is this large contingent of players just like, give us the Wizbang so we can shark it. I don't think that's accurate, and I don't want to send that message, because that's not accurate. But what we're doing by allowing Wizbang would be creating significant volume of logistical overhead for basically no competitive reason, and introducing more variance into a game in a way that can't really be controlled. So I don't think that it would be to a player's competitive advantage in almost any case, but I do think it would burden the tournament organizers and both players with administrative logistical responsibility when we already have tournaments that are taking an entire day to play 3 to 4 rounds. Adding time, pressure, and logistical hurdles to that doesn't seem like it makes sense for a card that, by definition, is not meant to have competitive value. I just don't see the return investment there in the time.
I do agree that I think the software and stuff would be a problem, and I could see, I guess, what you're saying with the administrative portions of it, but I just don't think that would ever come up. Honestly, it would make more sense is if you want to bring a Wizbang deck, then you just have to bring all your decks are just Wizbang decks, and then your opponent doesn't get a ban. You just play Wizbang every single time. Because if you want to bring one Wizbang deck, might as well just bring all Wizbang decks, right?
But if you were a tournament player and you went to a tournament and you had practiced and practiced and practiced, and then you wound up in that situation of Wizbang, like, would you feel good winning or losing that match? Would either of those feel like you?
Yes, I'd feel great if I won, because because there's a really good chance I would win because they're playing cards from the deck recipes. Those decks are fine. They can win games. Obviously, people are winning games on ladder with them, but I think that you're at a significant advantage against them. And if you lose against it, it's just you lose favorables all the time. It's just something you have to get used to.
I'm not disagreeing with the player without Wizbang would obviously be advantage. Just again, the value of allowing it is such a low return versus the potential for both variance and logistics to screw up the tournament in bizarre ways, and putting admins and players in situations where it could come down to a single card being misremembered or ways for the decks to be subtly tweaked. And even if it's open deck list, if you take a Wizbang deck and you make it 5 cards better, but then you just never play those cards, unless someone's watching your hand, they're not going to know that you're finding a way to game the system. Again, I don't think it's likely, but I'm glad that we don't have to ask these questions outside the context of arguing pointlessly on this podcast, because I
love that.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm a fan. I'm just saying I'm glad they prepared for this.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it makes sense for them to do it, but for the smaller tournaments that may not be, because I mean, the bigger problem I think than all of this is just that I don't think most tournament softwares are going to allow it, especially if they're banning it from tournaments, because they just have no reason they have no reason to make it possible to add it into the tournament formats. But I think for smaller tournaments that don't have a lot on the line, I don't see a reason to not allow Wizbang. But outside of the
at a fireside, whatever. Like, I would love to play in a Wizbang tournament. I would love at a fireside for Wizbang to be legal. I think in LHS it really screws up the format a little bit too much. Just because, again, LHS is built on you know the deck you're playing against when you lose, and I think removing that from the format would be really not solvable. But I don't think that LHS is also, like, LHS Wizbang tournaments probably aren't going to come up that much. It still in Conquest
tournaments with Wizbang. Well, obviously tournaments with Wizbang are just not going to come up because it doesn't exist. So
sure.
Anyway, I wanted to have that talk because I'm glad I get to see a little more of your point of view, because we were trying to have this discussion with 8 other people in a Discord channel and it wasn't really going anywhere. But we'll continue on with the news highlights because it's probably spent way too long on something that doesn't matter. The Boomsday Project Inn-vitational is happening happening in 2 days on August 10th. There's a bunch of invited players. They invited Ant, Ali Straza, and Trump from the NA region, Dane, Jackie Chan, and Tice from the EU region, and then they added some players from Taiwan and South Korea. I'm going to do my best. I know some of these names, like AHQ Roger, Tom60229, and AHQ Shaxi. And then the South Korea players, I'm going to do my best. RHDG Urans. That's one of the players. And then DDAH. Yeah, I can't. I don't even know if you can pronounce these because they're definitely not English names. But then Rini Hour is the last one. It's going to be casted by Admirable Frodan and Dr. J. Appa, do you think you're going to be able to catch this weekend?
No, I will be working a lot this weekend. Yeah, I work for like
Weekend
the next 4 days.
Warriors?
Yeah. Gotta jam in my Boomsday games while I can.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to catch some of this probably in between ladder games, or have it on the side while I'm doing some ladder games. But these things are always fun to get to see what some streamers come up with decklist wise, and get our first inklings of kind of where the meta's going after they've had a chance to play with the cards for a few days. Last 2 items here. Third round of BlizzCon ticket sales going up on Saturday the 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Hopefully, if you don't have your BlizzCon tickets yet, you can get them. I know the 3 of us are going to be there. I'm really excited about it. It's just around the corner, actually. Just a couple, 2.5 months away by now?
Wow. Actually,
a little
3 months.
less than 3 months.
It's just under 3 months. It's 85 days.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't wait. I get to go inside this time. Haven't been able to do that before, so that'll be fun.
Listeners, I want you to envision all of us inside at BlizzCon having fun. Broad is there, is signaling about kobolds and catacombs, and just do a slow camera pan to the glass, and you see Botticus pressed against, and then wistful music playing in the background. I want to be.
He's holding a radio above his head. It's raining.
No. We're doing Little Mermaid. We're doing I want to be a part of their world, because that's when I'm going to overdub over this when I edit the show. I'm going to mark it down right now. Definitely going to be Ariel music in the background, and Botticus is going to be a beautiful mermaid. I'm going to write that down for episode title.
Oh, great. So yeah, that was basically me last year. So this year, get to go inside, and hopefully we get to see you there, listener. All right, last item here is Art of Hearthstone panel. It looks like it's a YouTube video. Hat says that it's really long but super cool. Were you able to watch a part of it, Hat, I assume?
Yes, so this is a 48-minute video. It's a live panel with Ben Thompson, the art director for Hearthstone, along with Jamaro, Yedidia, who were both in the Boomsday intro video. They're both artists and designers, and then Matt Dixon, who's a card artist. And they talk for a good amount of time about the nature of art in Hearthstone, how it's designed, about the game boards, about the cards themselves, about the character design. It's really a nice look at kind of the nuts and bolts of how all this comes together. Because you look at the expansion, especially Boomsday. This is probably the best named cards in history, right? You've got Floop and Floop's Glorious Gloop, and you've got Ziliax and Myra and Stargazer Luna and her Pocket Galaxy and Electra Storm Surge and the Storm Generator and all sorts of stuff that's just really fun to say and experience. And the golden art I've actually been really impressed with in this set. All the goldens that I've seen have looked really, really impressive. So I think Hearthstone is kind of coming into its own in a really major way of pushing its own feel in a unique identity. We've kind of seen that already with sets as old as League of Explorers, which was the first time they really did their own thing and made their own thing up. But this is taking only a couple of characters we know. They're building on a character that they made themselves in Hearthstone, right? Dr. Boom was a random quest mob in WoW. He was a character of no relevance and only became relevant through his involvement in Hearthstone. And Hearthstone is doubling back on that and is playing a nostalgia of itself as opposed to a nostalgia of a different game. That's the first time this has happened. I think it's a really good indicator of how the game has kind of matured and they have some really solid source material to draw from. Because people have been playing this game now for 4 years. I'm done talking.
Yeah, it feels like
Sorry,
this
I
game
was.
is kind of developing its own kind of like lore behind it and its own story, which is really neat to see. Watch it branch off from like the World of Warcraft universe, because I mean, it used to be Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft before they took an eraser and took that off the title after League of Explorers came out. So it's really been interesting to see that change as a player since I have been playing for 3 years now at this point. It's really cool to see them go from like the grand tournament, which was still in WoW lore, and then they were just like, you know what? Scratch everything. Just scrap it all. League of Explorers. We got our own IPs now. Hearthstone's its own thing.
They were
We
like,
get creative like freedom with everything.
you
So
know what
I
would
really
make
like-
Hearthstone better?
really like that.
A Murloc with a British accent. And you know what? They were right. Murlocs with British accents make everything better. And I also want to say the flavor text writers for this set, off the charts. So good. The best flavor text in the set is Beryllium Nullifier. Did you guys read that flavor text? I'm gonna say it to you, even if you did.
I think I didn't get it.
So
Maybe
you
can
know what
explain.
Beryllium Nullifier is, right? It's the 7-mana 3/8 warrior mech, and it can't be
Can't be
targeted by
targeted.
spells or hero powers. And so
Right.
the flavor text is, why Beryllium? Because it's hard to spell. Can't cast spells on it. It's hard to spell. It's hard to. I'm gonna mute.
Well, you can't mute because it's time to go on the tournament section. We're done with news.
Wait, no, I wanted to talk
Oh,
about flavor
sorry,
text.
go.
Talk
Alright,
about
what's
flavor
your
text,
favorite?
Appa.
Yeah,
Don't
go.
let Botticus control you.
My two favorite ones. I didn't know that Electro Storm Surge was this until today because it happened to me. But it says coin. You use this for the coin, and I only know that because somebody played Electro Storm Surge, coined, and then Lightning Stormed, and it just didn't work. And I was like, "Get got, nerd!" And then my
Wow.
my other favorite one is Skaterbot, because it says, it's in quotations, it says he was a skater boy, and then it has Jaina outside of quotations, so she said he was a skater boy.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
those are my favorites.
Got some Avril Lavigne going on. There was a Less Than Jake reference too on I forget which one. Oh, Thunderhead. Some of his friends, or most of his friends, are metalheads. And it's like someone definitely took the right.
Do you know what Thunderhead says when he attacks?
What?
Thunderstruck. Yeah, it's great. I was watching Appa stream today, and every time he attacked with the Thunderhead, it's like Thunderstruck.
I wish you had told me this before the show, because I would have so many AC/DC bumpers, and now I'm upset, and we're going to use that energy to go into the tournament section.
It's the grand tournament.
Okay, this should be obvious. This is not the Boomsday meta, because at the time of this tournament, Boomsday didn't exist yet. So this is the final Witchwood meta tournament, kind of a nice reflection and retrospect on where the meta landed, though it's worth noting on the latter, the 12.0 patch, which was the same one that changed the way that copy effects worked. A day and a half before the set came out, new decks were being discovered because Fibonacci started putting Azalina and Life Drinker into Control Warrior, and it turns out that when you're playing in Shutterwalk and you play a Life Drinker at any point in the game, and you have Dry Whisker Armorer, and then either Cornered Sentry or Marin the Fox in your deck, what you do is you steal a bunch of 1-mana Shutterwalks, and then you play your own Shutterwalk for 1 mana, and you copy their hand and fill their board and gain more armor and play Life Drinker and kill them, or at least take the edge off. So you're just life drinking back and forth, but your chain gang is filling their board, and they can't play their own Shutterwalk, or they fill their hand with a bunch of 1/1s. This was a day and a half before the expansion rotated. I think we're going to look back and say the Witchwood meta was one of the most diverse and constantly evolving that we've ever seen, in part due to nerfs, in part due to card changes, and in part due to a relatively even power level. Now, that wasn't here for this tournament either, but it's cool to note. But this is HCT Taichung, is the last HCT event of the Witchwood meta, and we've got another one next week, HCT Germany. It'll be the first of the Boomsday, after the set has been out for 5 days. Really looking forward to it. So we have Horo took the tournament over Seiko. The Big Mac and Blitzchung made top 4. Decarp, Kribo, Zixo, and Like You Girl finished in the top 8. In HCG Week 3 as well, the global games, they're actually going to take a little break while the Boomsday adjusts, or the meta adjusts to it. But we do have our brackets here, our 3-0s, our 2-1s, our 1-2s, and our 0-3. As a reminder, if you are an 0-3 team, you are eliminated from making the round of 16. So the 0-3 teams that I'm going to list here are eliminated from progressing further in the tournament. I believe they are still playing in the tournament, but they cannot advance. So the 3-0 teams, the Ukraine, Spain, Brazil, Taiwan, China, and the Czech Republic. The 0-3 teams, we've got Malaysia, Mexico, Croatia, Philippines, Argentina, and Turkey are eliminated. Really surprised to see Argentina eliminated. And of course, I was rooting for Mexico to hang on after they did so well last year, especially with Ysera Hunter, but they didn't make it. And we've got a pretty loaded 1-2 bracket. Some teams I'll pick out here. Well, we start with Canada, US, Belgium, and France. Indonesia, Japan, Sweden, Portugal, Slovakia, Denmark, Peru, Australia, Austria, Finland, Hungary, Kazakhstan, Israel, and Greece. Pretty stacked 1-2. And our 2-1s, Russia, Germany, Singapore, Norway, South Korea, the UK, Netherlands, Switzerland, Poland, Thailand, Vietnam, Belarus, Chile, Romania, Bulgaria, Italy, Hong Kong, and New Zealand. Now, we're not going to go over the meta that we're seeing a ton. Again, this was not only Witchwood, but the bizarre random pick forced matchup HGG format that has proven to not be as reflective of competition as we would have liked. We will touch on particular matches when they get more exciting and interesting as the Boomsday meta with HGG evolves, but we're not going to go too in-depth here. We do have a couple of weeks off from HGG, so the next time that'll resume will be in, I believe, the week of the 22nd. And we'll confirm that for you, but that should be when it starts next. Okay, so HCT Taichung, we want to talk about the end of the Witchwood meta. And this is kind of where things were pretty stable towards the end there. Still seeing some evolution, but not quite as much. Mali Druid was really the big winner of the Witchwood tournament meta. It kept increasing in representation, and that really hasn't stopped here. We had 15 Druids in the Witchwood meta at the end here at Taichung in the top 16. There were 6 Malygos Druids, 4 tokens, 2 bigs, 2 taunts, and 1 spiteful. The other decks kind of fluctuate, but we've seen a pretty decent uprising in token in the more aggressive lineups, and we've seen a bigger uprising in Mali in the, well, really in all the lineups we've seen. It kind of fits in everywhere because it's got pretty balanced matchups. Token, if you see that, you know they're banning Warlock. Mali, that means they could be banning, could be Shaman, could be Rogue, probably not Warlock, but maybe Warlock. Depends on how the rest of the lineup is built. Now, as far as Warlocks, it's easily the second most popular class. We've got 7 evens, 4 zoos, 3 cubes, and 1 control. Then the third most popular class is Shaman. There's only 1 Shaman deck to speak of in the tournament meta. There were 9 Shutterwalks and 9 Shamans. Shaman. Is Shamans the plural? I forget. There were only 6 Rogues, 3 Odds, 3 Miracles. There were 6 Priests, all Mind Blast, 5 Warriors, all Taunt, 4 Paladins, all Odd, 4 Hunters, 3 Egg, and 1 Midrange. So these are kind of the archetypes that where people are settling on at the end of the meta. We're not seeing anywhere near as much innovation. That meta's gone now, but the winning lineup was Mali Druid, Egg Hunter, Odd Paladin, and Heal Zoo. Egg Hunter is another big story of the Witchwood meta. It really didn't come into its own until the last month. In the last month, it really started to dominate, became very, very popular, especially last week. And this week, it won the tournament, as well as Odd Paladin and Heal Zoo were accompanying the Mali Druid and the Egg Hunter. Seiko missed out in the finals. He had Token Druid, Miracle Rogue, Shutterwalk, and Q-Block, very clearly anti-control. Horo was a different kind of anti-control, definitely more of a anti-mid-range, definitely more about being faster and going over the top a little bit there. Blitzchung fell in the top 4 to Horo. He was rocking Token Druid, Mid-Range Hunter, Odd Rogue, and Heal Zoo. So he fell behind there in some of those matchups. And the Big Mac fell to Seiko with Big Druid, Control Priest, Odd Rogue, and even Warlock. That whole lineup is going to lose to Miracle Rogue. and all the other decks, the anti-control decks, were really preying on what the Big Mac was playing. Now we have one game to watch. I know it's not a Boomsday game. I know. We all want to talk about Boomsday. We all want to see Boomsday. But this game had a really interesting play decision. And I'm curious. I'm going to toss this to the other hosts. I want to see what they would do. Because it's Egg Hunter versus Miracle Rogue. Of course, the last game I feature in this format has to be Miracle Rogue, right? So, Seiko versus Horo. There's one swing turn in particular that matters, but let's set the stage. Seiko was playing Miracle Rogue. Horo was playing Egg Hunter. It's not really all that favored for Egg Hunter. But this game starts off pretty well. There's a candle shot early. Turn 3, Hench Clan Thug, attack. Well, we're going to respond to that with Egg, Coin, Hunter's Mark, kill it. Then a Faldori Strider. How about a Flanking Strike? Kill it. How about, after that, Terror Scale Stalker and Play Dead. I have 2 5/5s. I'm at 30. Your board is clear. Pretty good spot for the Egg Hunter. Now, Seiko's able to use Shadow Step for a value trade. He kills a 5/5 with a Vile Spine Slayer, but he's facing down a pretty solid board. Sap hits one of the 5/5s, but Highmane comes down an empty board as the Rogue's life total winnows down. But wait, a Questing comes down. There's a prep. There's a second sap on the Highmane. As you know, you never want your Highmane to get sapped. And the Questing is a 5/5 against a 3/3 and a 1/2 Firefly. The Questing cannot die. There's nothing in hand to punish that. It lives. 2-mana minion comes down along with Hench, Coldblood, Hero Power, 12-8 to the face. Now the Hunter goes from 30 to 18, facing down a 4/4 Hench, Faldori Strider, and a 12-8 Questing Adventurer. Now Horo, his board is Highmane, 1/2 minion, 2 1/2 minions, and a Devilsaur Egg. His hand is Katharina, Witchwood Grizzly, Houndmaster Shaw, and a 5-mana 5/5. Remaining in the deck is 1 Highmane, 1 Grizzly. He does not play King Crush. So Katharina is either coin flip, Highmane, or Grizzly. Shaw can pop the Savannah Highmane to attack and trade with both the 12-8 Questing and one of the 4/4s. Or you could play the Witchwood Grizzly. It would be a 3/9 Taunt. You only get one play this turn. What would you guys do? Go for the 50-50? Make the Shaw trade, or play the Taunt?
You probably have to go for the 50-50, right? Because if you go for the trade, you're still behind on board, right? I can't envision the full board, but even getting the trade.
Yeah, if you go for the trade, you have a
probably-
Shaw, an Egg, and nothing else against a 4/4 and a Dagger.
Yeah, and you're at 18.
Yes.
How many cards do they have in hand? Do you know?
3 plus a draw for their turn.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard. Well, how easy is it? They've already used a Vile Spine. How hard? It's pretty hard.
They've
for
used
them
a
to
Vile
remove
Spine
your
and 2
Shaw.
Saps.
Yeah, it's pretty hard for them to remove your... or I guess they could just attack your Shaw and then attack it with the Hench Clan, but then they're not dealing any damage to your face.
Well, the
So-
Hench Clan would probably die. It would be with a Strider. So you can they're showing 5 damage,
Well,
and that's assuming
they
a
can
trade.
remove the Shaw, right?
No. If
So they can't...
it'd be a 12. So there's a 12-8, a 4/4 Clan, and a 4/4 Strider. If you only leave the Strider up, then it'd be a 3/6 Shaw against a 4/4 and 1 attack and the Dagger.
Yeah, you might have to just do that then, because then if your Shaw survives, if they don't have anything, then you can Katharina and probably win from there the next turn.
Appa, opinions?
That's my thought process.
Makes sense.
There is a lot of information, and it's hard for me to visualize what's happening on the board, so I can't give like a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah, in that position, it just feels like if you have a shot that your Shaw might live, then maybe you just go for the Shaw play so that you can likely win the next turn with Katharina pulling a couple rush things.
The only thing that I find relevant in the decision making, I think, is if you're looking for a taunt, then why don't you just play the taunt that you have, even if it's 3 less health, right? Instead of going for 50-50 and losing, instead of taking it a little slower with Shaw plus Grizzly, went for the higher risk play, but the downside of that was that he just lost, right?
So that's what happened. He thought about it, and he went with Botticus first impulse. He played the Katharina. It was 50-50 for either a 3-12 taunt or a 6-5. And it got the high main, traded high main 2 1-2s into the 12-8, left alive a 4-4 hench, a 4-4 strider, and a dagger, and Leroy Jenkins comes down and seals the game for Seiko. There's...
Well, didn't I change my answer at the end? I thought
You did. Your
trying
first
to
response
land
was the one that he went with, but
Oh, okay.
you ended with a different response. Yes.
Okay.
It was definitely a different decision that you landed on, but the same as your first impulse. And I don't know if it was wrong, but I do know that it was literally a coin flip. And I don't know if the 3-12 versus the 3-9 would have been a lot better. I think the different factor there is that you have the Catherine as well as the 6-6 to make sure you can broker better trades the following turn. But it ended up not working out for Horo. So, Seiko took his opponent from 30 to 0 in 2 turns. It's truly a miracle, and it's a miracle that Boomsday is finally here. HCT Germany this weekend, first tournament of the new year. And that is the end of the Witchwood meta. We loved you, we'll miss you, but maybe not really because we're ready for new stuff. And speaking of new stuff, how about them Decksplanations? Gentlemen, are you ready?
I was born ready.
Well,
So I think what we want to do this explanations. The title here is winners and losers, but I think we just want to kind of highlight what our thoughts were pre day one, what our kind of blanking on the word conceptions. Is that right? Is that the word?
Our predictions.
Perception. There we go. Not conceptions. Come on up.
no, it's
Get it together.
conceptions
Our
are
perception of
very different.
what we thought the cards that we saw, how they're going to affect the classes.
Our guesses.
Yeah. So for me, I had Shaman, Druid, and Warlock coming away with cards that made existing archetypes better and had some really, really powerful cards like the 2 mana, deal 4 damage, take 4 damage for Warlock, for even Warlock, the Solarium for Zoo, and the 3 mana 2/2 Imp, those kinds of things. I think everything else was kind of contextual to me in terms of power, because we have Magnetic, which we had never seen before. We had a bunch of crazy combo cards that I had no idea how to evaluate because they're crazy combo cards. But if you want to see my like individual predictions pre day one, I did a video for Tempo Storm. I did a top 10 cards of Boomsday video with 2 honorable mentions in the video, and I linked it in the show notes, and I'll actually just link it in chat here in case anybody wanted to see it. But yeah, those were my kind of card predictions. But for classes, I had Shaman, Druid, and Warlock, and I think, well, I guess we'll get into post day one impressions after we'll talk about this. But how about you, Bot? What'd you think?
So I typed this up as I was going to sleep before Boomsday. I kind of looked at all the cards and just kind of put this in Discord because we knew we wanted to do what we've been doing the last couple sets on just what we think, which classes we think came out winners, which ones we thought came out as losers, just by looking at the cards. And so I had picked Druid, Shaman, Priest, and Warrior as all getting cards that I thought were quite strong and I thought had a lot of potential. And then I did not think that Rogue, Warlock, and Hunter got very exciting cards or ones that I expected to do very well. And then Mage and Paladin got some cards that seemed reasonable, but I didn't think were clear winners of the set. It seems like I might have got a couple. It seems like I got a few of those predictions a little bit wrong, but we'll go into that when we get into kind of the perceptions of how we see the meta going in day two. But Hat has a lot of stuff typed up. So what was your impressions before day one, Hat?
Surprise, I'm verbose. So Druid, obviously the winner in a pretty major way. We don't know how much, or at least we didn't at the time. Shaman, it got some pretty useful tools. I think just improved in a class that really only had one archetype. It got a lot of other options. We had really identified Thunderhead as the main one that stood out, but there's a lot of other ways to take that Bloodlust deck from being almost good enough to actually good enough. Paladin and Warrior both got decent cards. I think the thing about both of those decks, they both had basically one archetype, especially in the tournament meta, that you could play. Warrior, I don't know if it got a ton more archetypes. There's a bunch of different control variants. Recruit and Taunt are not that far apart, but I think that it'll be just better to play either of those variants. You'll get better results, so I think that means the class is ultimately a winner, at least in some way. And Paladin, I don't know. I didn't know at the time if it would be able to diversify outside of just playing Odd. Because you look at every tournament for the past month, the only Paladin seeing play is Odd. All of them. And that's whether it's the top 16 or the entire tournament. It sounds like Paladin has at least gone to Odd Mech, and there might be some non-Odd Mech, but we haven't really seen a lot else of that. At the time, I called it, I said I'm just not sure about Paladin, because I do believe that the mech decks might be somewhat relevant, but we're not really sure where it goes. As far as Warlock, Warlock was already the most diverse class. Not the best, but the most diverse. And they're not getting necessarily as much as everybody else, but it was already so well situated that a smaller improvement will keep it relevant with the other classes. Priest, I don't know, man. I don't know how to evaluate Priest other than Topsy-Turvy, almost by definition, makes Inner Fire better. Hunter is depending a lot on mechs and death rattles, and it already was kind of doing that, so it needed for that to be really relevant in some kind of way that it wasn't already doing. Mage, I didn't really see a lot of cohesion among the cards there, like the hand mage idea just feels really clunky. And Rogue, the cards seemed all over the place. I didn't really feel like Death Rattle Rogue was going to have enough relevance or board presence or pace to keep up with the gameplay that I was expecting to see. And that was where I landed. So, short version. Druid, Shaman, Paladin, Warlock, and Warrior up, though Paladin and Warrior not as much. Priest, I'm not sure. Hunter, I'm not sure. Mage bad, Rogue bad.
And that's just from new archetypes, you think, or kind of just the overall place in the new environment?
Well, this is my pre-day one guesses. So
Okay.
I didn't really envision Mage and Rogue getting new archetypes that mattered. Hunter, I didn't necessarily see it. Paladin, I was hoping for more diversity. And Warrior, I'm not expecting a ton more diversity there, and I wasn't at the time, but I was expecting the existing archetypes to become way more playable.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't have Rogue or Mage as like a loser because I guess in terms of new archetype spawn from the expansion, I would have listed it as a loser or them as losers, but they still do have powerful decks in like Miracle Rogue and Tempo Mage, so that's just why I was asking. But with that being said, we have had a couple of days to play with the expansion, so let's just go with Hat again, since that's the freshest one and he's the most verbose among us. What are your day 2 impressions so far?
I have never been happier to be wrong about Rogue. Death Rattle Rogue is good.
Same.
Odd
So
Rogue
much
is
same.
and Odd Rogue is good. And it's not quite the same Odd Rogue that we know. It's close. But like you can just put a little bit more value in there, and the value is good. And sometimes you're like, man, I wish I had more cards. How about 5 mana, draw 9 right now? Okay. And then I did play a very satisfying game today with Shuffle Miracle Rogue, where I did not really expect Augmented Elec. That's the 3 mana 3/4 neutral epic that whenever you shuffle a card in, you shuffle in an extra one. I was against a Druid today, and I coined out a turn 2 4/4 Edwin. Then I played a turn 3 3/4 Augmented Elec, and they took that card in their hand, their Naturalize, and they pointed it right at the 3/4. They left my 4/4 Edwin alive, and they're like, I'd rather take 4 than give you more spiders. Doesn't matter. 4 turns later, I was overflowing with spiders. I drew a spider and burned it because I already had 5 other spiders. It was fantastic.
What so what are you shuffling other than spiders?
You have the Augmented Elec, which allows you to spider more, and also Lab Recruiter with Elec.
Okay.
You double those shuffles, and I think that's it. I think it's just
That's
those two.
Okay.
But it's
Are you
just also
playing
a spider tank.
Zodiacs? I've seen that in a lot of different rogue lists. It seems like a card that's really important for rogue, as not something I expected. That's the card I think was most unexpected for me because I didn't like it too much when I was first looking at it because I wasn't sure how it would work with mechs, but it seems just really strong in a deck that usually struggles to have any sort of defensive tools.
Yeah, this particular list is Kuma's Miracle Rogue. Is currently top 20. It does play double Giggling Inventor. It does not play Ziliax. But I have seen some Pogo Rogo builds that do play Ziliax, and they also will include that Recruiter and often the Elec. Just having a Spider Tank on 3 is great. It's just great because people were trying Blink Fox or Questing Adventurer there. Elec does what you want your deck to do already, just with the Spiders and the Recruiters, and Recruiter just makes your threat density so much higher in a way that really, really matters. And the Giggling Inventors have been great, and
Yeah, should
Kuma.
we talk about that card? Holy
Yes,
cow.
yes.
That might be the most played card from the set right now. It's in everything. It's in I think we all kind of saw that and we're thinking it was going to be good. I know Appa definitely thought that card was going to be quite good, but holy cow, it's really making a lot of waves. Seems to be really good in the aggressive decks because you just get 3 bodies, and then also just good in the defensive decks because it's a lot of defense.
Fungalmancer has taught me that 5 mana, 2 attack bodies that have relevant effects are nothing to be slept on, and this was one of them. And I saw it and I'm like, Noyatron is incredibly annoying. 1 to get through, and 2 to remove. So this will probably see play. And
It's
yeah, that
I
card's
ex-
been
I expected this to be on the Serenite Chain Gang level of play, and instead it's closer to the Sludge Belcher level of play, which it turns out is not a dramatically different level, but the difference between in most decks and in I'm not going to use an F word here. I'm going to say in flarking every deck is maddening because the chance of you running into a Giggling Inventor is very, very high, and that's just basically 5 mana gain 10 life. It feels like it's just 5 mana gain 10. And that's assuming there's no Fungalmancer behind it or some other way to take advantage of those little annoying mech bodies. It's been really impressive every time I've seen it, and I think is one of the I would put it in the top 3 cards of the set.
I'm not going to say I believe in signs or fate, but during my pack opening, I opened 10 plus Giggling Inventors. 4 of them were golden.
Man.
So
Or golden, holy.
yeah, I got to disenchant 2 golden ones and still have my goldens.
Wow.
So I
I
think
think
I think they
we're
were trying to tell me something.
I think we're gonna come up on some people wanting to have some smashing fun pretty soon.
What kind of smashing?
A 6 mana 2/7
Oh.
amount of smashing fun.
If we end up in the Giggling Inventor Mossy Horror meta, I just don't know what I'll do with my life. I just have no idea what I'll do.
uh,
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I've got a lot more written here, but Appa, what do you tell me about what you've seen? Where were you right? Where were you wrong?
I've seen a lot of things so far. I feel like so as of right now, as of day 2 of the expansion, I feel like I was pretty on the mark with Floop's Gloop and Dream Petal Florist. I felt like I
cards are
talked
not
about this
very
last
good,
week.
right?
What?
You're on the page that they're not very good, right?
Yeah, I
Gloop is
talked about
just
this last
seems
week
bad.
that I thought they were both pretty overrated from what I saw on Twitter and like the pros and stuff. Like I think Floop's Gloop is strong in the Wild Pyro, Gadgetzan Auctioneer, Mechathune Druid deck, but I also think it's
That's
good
like
in the
the 5th best druid deck.
yeah. I also think
Or
it's good in the
something.
Token Druid deck. I think those are the 2 where you can use it, but it does require a lot of setup. It's not just something you can just toss in there and have it be like good, because it's a lot of people compared it to like worst case scenario. It's like an Innervate or something, but it's not even that. It's not even guaranteed to be that. It can just be 1 mana, be dead, not do anything. But anyways, before I take off on that, Dream Petal Florist was another one because it is 7 mana, and while you do ramp very quickly with Druid, 7 mana 4/4 is still you have to be doing some really busted with it, and to guarantee that hit, you can't really play like the Ironwood Golems or those kinds of things, and you have to guarantee you're hitting a combo piece with it. And
I still, while we're kind of still talking about Gloop, I still think I don't think you want to play that in Token Druid. If you're at a spot where you're attacking with minions, then generating a bunch of mana is probably not what you want to be doing, in my opinion. I don't think it's strong enough in that deck. I think most of the times you're better off having another card in there, because I'm attacking with minions, I want to be doing a lot of damage, and that card doesn't do damage.
Well-
It might help you cast a UI, I guess, but I mean, it feels like such a corner case situation where you're actually going to be generating mana and it's going to be doing what you want to be doing.
yeah, the two scenarios that I saw would be good were, one, I forget what deck I was playing, but it was the Gadgetzan Wild Pyra thing, and he just like
Mechathune.
did, yeah, he went Auctioneer, Biology Project, Wild Pyro, Gloop, Moonfire, gained a bunch of mana, kept drawing through a deck. Like, that's obviously going to be a busted turn. And then the other one was the corner case scenario. I was playing Even Shaman, and he was playing Token Druid, and he had a board just full of 1/1s. And then played Gloop, traded in, swiped, did some other stuff, got to UI on top of it, went off that turn. It was very good there. But that's in the minion versus minion deck matchup. But I don't think it is a just like auto include like everybody seemed to think immediately. Again, day 2 of the expansion, could be wrong. This is one of the cards that I'm willing to be wrong on, but I'm not sure I am so far. And then what else was I talking about, or what was I thinking about? Unexpected Results is one that I still have the jury still out on. I think I listed that in my top 10 of Boomsday in the video, and I think it's very powerful, and it does what Tempo Mage wants to do on turn 4. It doesn't want to be playing stupid Life Drinkers or what's the other 4-drop? Vex Crows. Doesn't want to be playing those cards really, because Vex Crow is not really a 4-drop. It's like a 5-drop, and then Life Drinker on 4 just feels bad. But if you can have a Thalnos or like the 4-mana 4/3 spell power dude on board and Unexpected Results, and it's a really good refill tool, and it keeps your pressure going. And I think that's really where the deck wants to be. And then I don't think I've had really many controversial card opinions this set besides those 3.
The 4-mana card I want to play in Tempo Mage is +2 spell damage, and I want to pair that with usually Coin Shooting Star, nice minion deck.
Yeah, I got all those in my deck.
Yeah. It was so pleasant. My opponent had a Kirin Mage, and I had 5 mana, and they had a secret up, and I had already tested for counterspell. And so I went the 4-mana 4/3 with spell damage +2, and played Shooting Star, and he got Spellbender. Like, oh, well, now they're both dead.
Yeah, I had a game earlier on stream where I had the 4/3 on board, and then I played the 2-mana 2/1 Anomaly, gain spell power +2, and he had Despicable Dreadlord, Chain Gang, Fungomancer, and then I just went 1 mana, blow up all 3 of your things, put them away.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
it was
good.
nice.
Have you considered having the spell damage +2 person on board, and then the 2-mana 2/1, and then Coin, and then Concede?
No.
I definitely saw Allie do that and play the 2/1 and then Coin Unexpected Results, and I think she got some unexpected results of a couple 2/2s instead of a couple 4/4s.
Aww. Poor Allie.
But anyway, I'll go into kind of my impressions. Zeus seems really strong. I think that's the deck I've played against them by far the most out of everything, especially from people that seem like they're trying to climb. Yeah, it just seems really strong. I think I had Warlock in the losing camp, and I didn't really think that Zoo would be the best of the proactive decks on the first day, and so that's why I didn't really. I thought Solarium had potential, but I wasn't super high on it. It's obviously much better than I thought at first, which I think you guys were trying to tell me maybe, but I wasn't aware of how good doubling imps, how good the interaction between doubling imps and the new 1-mana spell.
Oh, Soul
that-
Infusion.
Soul
If
Infusion
anybody
would
says
be-
they saw that coming, I will have difficulty believing them because that's Soul Infusion is a hand buff card, but it's the first actually good one I think we've seen, unless you count
it's-
Kaliseth, and it's really really good, and it makes Solarium better because you're just so much more likely to draw a low cost spell.
I didn't say anything about how good it would be, but I did bring it up on the podcast last week, and I said, this is the card that you wanted that rewards long-term game
It's-
planning, Hat.
It's true, but long term in Zoo is like turn 3 or 4, and
Yeah, that's late game planning for Zoo.
and I'm all about it because it's not too hard to sculpt
Actually-
your hand, and with double chain gang doubling imp, it's not too hard to get that going. I've actually seen a list that hit the top legend recently that had Void Analyst, which is the 2/2 that when it dies it buffs all demons in your hand, and plays that too just to make doubling imp better. And I've been really impressed by how strong of a reload card or early pressure that is. It's very powerful.
I got to keep a doubling imp in my hand because it was the far left card, and then also got to keep the infusion, so you could just go infusion into coin 2/4/4s, and that was
I used Edwin Van Cleef to coin 1/4/4 today, and I felt good, and I won that game.
Actually, I think I ended up not. I think I just played Flame Imp on 1, and then played the 4/4s on turn 3, so I could coin a 5-drop. But still, just those being able to play 2/4/4s on turn 3 is really powerful. We used to be really excited to play Hench Clan Thug on turn 3, and then when you had to dagger, and then you get 1/4/4. That was a great play, and just 2/4/4s on turn 3 is gross.
What you're talking about used to be. I'm still excited. Hench my boy.
Okay, yeah, still exciting.
I like Hench Clan Thug.
But yeah, obviously Druid is still very good. There's I have yet to lose to Mech Cthulhu yet. I hope I can keep that streak going for a while. But Mali Druid is just clearly very powerful. But I do think the Biology Project, people are starting to figure out that it's not as busted as people were thinking. It's very good in that Mech Cthulhu deck because 1-mana spells and Auctioneer are very good, especially ones that gain you mana. But I feel like people are starting to cut Biology Project from what I feel like a lot of the pros are saying. Malagos Druid is probably one of the best decks, if not Zoo. I actually don't know if they're thinking Zoo is actually good or if it just beats up on Mali Druid and that's why so many people are playing it. But I think the Biology Project might not be the busted card that everybody was worried about, because the drawback is real. But there's a lot of different interesting combo decks out there, and I can't believe that people are actually playing the Cube Rogue deck that cubes Leroy to deal a bunch of damage to them, and it's working for some people. So I'm really excited that I brought that up last week.
Okay, so thoughts. First of all, Biology Project is not the best card in Mali Druid, but I think the best Druid list is Togwaggle. I think the best Druid deck is Togwaggle. And Tyler hit rank 3 Legend with it today and had double Bio Project. Juicy Psych Melon's not in it, but one Dream Petal Florist is. And I think you have to play one of those, and it just makes the deck so powerful. And Bio Project is really, really good in that deck specifically. But I also agree that that Death Rattle Rogue is awesome, but I'm not ready to call Biology Project overrated. I'd put Biology Project, Giggling Inventor as 2 of the top 3 cards in the set. Number 3 might be the Solarium. Time will tell, but I think that Bio Project is still really, really powerful.
I think this is going to be the least controversial statement of all time, but I think Biology Project is the most difficult ramp card they've printed so far to play with.
Okay.
All the other ones just like slam on curve ramp.
Yeah.
It's Pilfered Power. Pilfered Power.
That's why it's not controversial. But yeah, there's been a lot of games where I have Biology Project in my opening hand. I'm just like, it's not going to play this on turn 1. Don't have anything good to go into. They'll just get more of an advantage than me. And then like the mid game hits, and I'm like, Project, Nourish, draw 3, and then I have 8 mana. It's like, okay, do your worst. I have UI in 2 turns. I have Swipe, Spreading Plague, you lose.
Yeah, and maybe that's it, but I feel like I've been starting to see Druid lists that are not playing it in rampish lists.
Yeah, I think it definitely has
playing
its drawbacks. In the Druid Mirror, I mulligan away. every time. Like, I'm
Oh,
never casting this card.
Yeah, you
ever.
don't want to play
It's
it
good-
in the
it's going to be an innervate past 10 mana crystals for both of us. Just
Yeah.
not going to play it early because it's just card disadvantage. But I have written on the show notes that I kind of wanted to get into is ramping has and always will be busted as long as there's a payoff to ramp into and refill to recoup the card disadvantage from that ramp. And I mean, Biology Project just kind of fits into Druid, and there's good stuff to ramp into right now, and there's best refill Druid's ever had to recoup for that ramp. So I would say as long as you're not playing the Druid class mirror, Biology Projects is a very, very powerful card and not as intuitive as it looks to play with, I don't think. I haven't played with I have my own Togwoggle Druid list that I made. I don't know if it's optimized or not at all, because staying away from Twitter and Hearthstone top decks and stuff. But Biology Project is honestly probably one of the more difficult cards to kind of pick my spots in that I've found in the deck. And before that, I think Nourish held that title for Druid, because that one was kind of difficult to choose between refilling and ramping. Now that gets a little easier because you have more ramp. And anyways, Biology Project's kind of a hard card to play with, and I still think it's good. But again, we're on day 2. Could turn out that the best Druid lists in a week or two just don't play it. But I've been liking it a lot.
The last thing I want to bring up actually is something that Nicholas was kind of talking about in chat about going first in a aggro-centric mirror. Going second feels really bad. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm playing against an aggressive deck and I'm going second, I feel so far behind just instantly. But maybe maybe you guys are playing different decks where it doesn't matter as much. But every time I've gone second against Sue, it's felt like a struggle.
Yeah, it hasn't felt unbeatable unless they get the draw, but it's harder to come from behind with a lot of the decks in this meta that we've seen so far. Many of them are built around snowballing. Okay. Before we go any further, I want to point out we started talking about Death Rattle Rogue and didn't go into it. Can we segue, because I want to talk about Death Rattle Rogue?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
sure.
want to talk
This
about
is-
Death Rattle
okay.
Rogue too, and how awesome Myra Rotspring is, Nicholas.
Yeah, this was my second deck I built on stream yesterday. I built Spell Hunter because I have zero creativity whatsoever. I was like, let's try Secret Plans. And then it was good. I was like, Death Rattle Rogue. Where do we go? I think Schwal mentioned in chat because I was asking for stuff to build because I had no idea. He said Death Rattle Rogue, and I was like, where do I start? And then I didn't know. And then I took the deck recipe and I hit play. And then I tried it out. And then I tinkered with some stuff and kind of focused more on eggs and fungomancers and stuff. And then I was actually fairly impressed by Myra Rotspring. She's not like the best 5-drop Rogue's ever had, like not by a long shot, but I mean, you get if you have pressure on board, you develop a 5-mana 4/2 that gains you a card as refill, which is nice, and then also presents an annoying threat on board. I think I copied the 4-mana 2/4 that death rattles into a poisonous 1/1 with rush with her, and that was really nice because then I got to Spirit Singer Umbra into that next turn. That was gross because it has
Yeah,
battle
there's-
cry make a 1/1 rush.
There's just a lot of There's a lot of board centric death rattles, or it feels like there's Sated Threshodon, there's Violet Worm, which are all just big minions you can play later, but also kind of can give you a board presence at the time. And then there's some defensive tools if you need it, like Plated Beetle and Deranged Doctor, I think. And the one that draws you a combo piece, it curves nicely into it. The pirate 5/3
Cursed
with rush,
Castaway!
yeah, Cursed Castaway, which Hat was talking about. I think
Yay.
the card's pretty legit, and then there's just a bunch of different ways to build the Death Rattle Rogue. I guess you have the odd rogue that plays Myra, but then also just Death Rattle with eggs and stuff, and the weapon that the 3/2 weapon. 3/2 weapons have been traditionally good, but the being able to control when the procking of the Death Rattle goes off is just you can generate a lot of tempo that way, it feels like.
and pop your Mechanical Whelps, which is a card that we all totally expected to be seeing play on day 1 of this expansion. We all were like, we're going to take that 2/2 dragon, it's going to pop out some 7/7s. It's to continue in the Myra Rotspring love train real quick. I have played with the card one time, and I know that means really small sample size. I don't know what's going to happen, but my girlfriend was playing Death Rattle Odd Rogue and had to step away from the computer for seconds, like play. And so I played, okay, turn 5 Myra Rotspring. I was slightly ahead on board, and it got me Replicating Menace, which is the 3/1 magnetic that spits out 3/1/1 mechs. And my opponent was playing a hunter, and they cleared multiple minions using a couple removal spells. They had a Candle Shot up. They had, I think it was a Flanking Strike. And so it popped out 3 little 1/1s. And I was like, okay, magnetic, in for 6. And then my opponent went, okay, I guess I'll play Rexar. And I said, okay, well, I get a bunch of 1/1s. Fungalmancer, in for 6. And then my opponent plays Katharina and dies. And then it was great. It was just great. It's because when you're ahead on board, the chances of you making something sticky that has impact in the board after they clear it and the extra card in your hand is what Odd Rogue was missing. They were missing that presence that doesn't go away and that ability to generate more card advantage. So it plays Myra and her Unstable Element, and this list actually plays double Crazed Chemist too, which is the 5-mana 4/4 combo, give a minion +4 attack. 2 more Cold Bloods. I love Cold Blood. Want to play more with a 4/4. I think there's something there, and it's not quite a Shadowcaster, and it's not quite a Zero. It's the best of both worlds, but that's exactly what Odd Rogue needs, and I've been very impressed by what I've seen so far in that context. In a more value-driven context, I actually tried the Death Rattle Rogue bot, and I didn't have as much success with it, but I think it's a more difficult deck to play than it looks. I really want to get some practice in with it because it looks funky, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch of different ways to build it. I built it in a very memey way, but I've seen other people that seem to have legit ways, like actually putting Cold Blood in your deck that has eggs in it. Probably makes a lot of sense, which I didn't have in my version of the list, but I just kind of threw it together, and I was just surprised to see other people playing Cube and that card in it. I think within the first couple hours, I saw Dog play against Killin All Day, who just slammed a Charged Devil Sore in his rogue deck, and next turn he cubed it and prepped out the 5-mana trigger a Death Rattle twice and overkilled Dog by a lot.
Man.
a lot.
Killing All Day 1, more like it. Oh! It's the first day of the... You get it. Okay.
You got overly excited about that mediocre pun.
That's my jam. Of all the things to be surprised by, that is the last thing. And speaking of things to be overly surprised by, do we agree that Mecha'thun is not just a meme?
I don't know. The second game I played in this expansion, somebody started going off with Auctioneer and Pyro and stuff, and then Mecha'thun me, and then I died. I don't know. It might be a meme still.
But I think it's more of a thing than not a thing at all. And that's what I'm surprised by, because I expected to be like straight up. I expected to be full Togwaggle of this is somewhere between a joke and an insult to anyone that opens it, and it turns out to be relevant. And Mecha'thun, I think actually Warlock might be the best Mecha'thun deck because you're able to not worry about the board or your hand. You just have to get an empty deck, and then you play the double Galvanizer to make Mecha'thun cost 8, and then you go Mecha'thun, Bloodbloom, Cataclysm. As long as my deck is empty, I win right now. It's just 25 defensive cards and 5 I win right now, which is about the same density as Shutterwalk, and you have Life Tap instead of make a crappy O2 or sometimes a 1/1.
I think Mecha'thun is a nice fail-safe in case this meta starts getting too greedy, like the last one did for a little bit there. It was like a bunch of Malagos Druid, Shutterwalk on ladder, and then people were just like trying to go over the top and just do like way too much greedy stuff. So I'm glad we have kind of one of those decks or card options. It's just like, if you're too greedy, I'm gonna smash you. But then I think it needs to be built in the right way, and I hope it's bad against everything else except slow decks, because then that's when things start getting a little dicey. But Yeah, I agree. It's more of a thing than a meme, or more of a
It's
thing than not a thing at all.
it's way more of a Rin type card, I think, where I th- I believe all of us kind of underestimated that Rin would see any amount of play and then saw some play. To me, I was gonna say that Mech Cthulhu seems like a legitimate way to win under 50% of all your games. But
Hmm.
so you can definitely win games with it, but I don't know that it's good enough to be necessarily a greater than 50% win deck, which puts it in probably tier 3 or something. That's usually where those decks lie, the 48% decks or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to give the impression like Mechathune is the end of the meta and is the best thing. Just it's more than unplayable, which means I was wrong about the card.
Same.
And so, really, what's our overall impression of the meta so far? Because I have thoughts, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts.
So I'm seeing a lot of everything. There's not really real way to tell like what's like actually what's good now is going to be good like a week down the road, like when the meta starts figuring itself out. But there are a lot of concepts that do seem powerful, like Zoo with Solarium and like the different versions of Zoo. Like Zoo's just a proactive deck, so it's just going to feast on unrefined things right now. And I think that's kind of a winner of the beginning days of the expansion, at least. The new Druid builds, like Togwaggle Druid, is feels like more of a thing than it was. Malagos Druid got a little bump up, and there are some new Druid decks that people are trying that seem fairly powerful. But I do think it's important to realize that there's not going to be like a real metagame to grasp onto until like a week or so in, if history is any indication. And by history, I mean literally every expansion ever. The first few days are full nonsense, and the metagame's just not going to look like it is now. Like a week and a half, 2 weeks down the road, and then it's going to keep evolving. Like usually the cycle is first few days, bunch of random stuff. A week in, things start getting figured out. Next 2 weeks are like everybody's playing the same decks. We've all figured out the meta. Then like the fourth week, somebody finds something busted and it blows the meta wide open. And this feels like how pretty much every expansion ever has gone. So I'm not too sure about what decks are going to be like really good, but I think I can speak to how powerful they feel. And many of the old decks still feel really powerful. And I mean, for good reason. They're good decks like Miracle Rogue, Q Block, Malagos Druid, Odd Paladin, etc. Those kind of things. They're all still really powerful when I play against them. And I think they'll likely still see some play. I'm not sure how good the full mech decks are. I do think there is space for mech synergies within proactive decks, like not full mech, but like cards with like Joey Bot, the Coppertail Imposter, War Gear, Ziliax. Like if you just have like those plus a few more, you could probably just fit those into any proactive strategy, and it's probably fine. Because I was playing Mech Paladin, and I pretty much just threw all the mechs into a Paladin deck and called it a day, and it was actually doing surprisingly well. But when I didn't have the magnetic buffs, it felt really underpowered. So I think kind of hedging against that and just picking individually powerful cards without magnetic buffs, or individually serviceable cards like Joeybot, War Gear, Coppertail, Imposter, those kinds of things that don't require magnetic buffs to be good. I think that's kind of a way. I think that's my prediction of how magnetic and mechs are going to fit into the expansion. Is they're not going to be their own thing. I think they're going to go in all like previously discovered strategies that get a power up from the magnetic buff potential. And there's some ideas that I still want to try out because I am going through all 9 classes and trying to like build my brews for the first week. And the ideas I still want to try out, at least that are on the forefront of my mind, are Tempo Warrior with a mech slant and the Boom Ship. I'm I'm always a sucker for Tempo Warrior, and I think the 1-mana 1/3 that damages something. God, what's the name of it?
Animated
Damage-
Berserker?
Yeah, Animated Berserker. I think that card has sweet potential. The 1-mana 1/3 that gains you 2 is nice, and some mech. I think the 6-mana 2/5 that summons a 2/3 with taunt is underrated right now. So I think that's one of those decks that could have a little bit of a mech package to it, but not be fully reliant on mechs because you have synergies elsewhere with Enrage, Bloodrazor, Whirlwind, like that, like those kind of effects. And then the Boom Ship, I feel like would be a nice top end for that, like Gramash, Rotface, Lich King. If you hit like one or more of those with the Boom Ship, then it's just nutty. So that's a deck I want to try out. I want to try out Mech Hunter, just like see the different mech synergies within Hunter, see what are good enough, see what aren't. I want to try out the Boar Combo Priest because I haven't gotten to play with that yet. But I'm gonna
That
wait.
deck's sweet. I can't wait to try that deck.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
make a
If
quest.
you want to be
priest
good at that
deck.
deck, I would recommend Being Dog.
Yeah, the Hat showed us a clip before the show of Dog making a lot of boars to punch through a lot of taunts and then kill his opponent. It was pretty impressive. There was a lot of clicking very quickly.
Yeah, that was a good clip. Yeah,
And
those are
thinking quicker.
some of the decks I want to build lists for, but that's kind of my rambling and my impression of the meta and where my head's at right now. So, what are y'all thinking?
Yeah, I just want to try more stuff now that I've kind of. One deck that I did try, which I don't think is very good, but it kind of worked. The Hand Mage. I know some people were talking about Hand Mage, and I was able to kind of take a list that Brian Kibler was playing before of it was like an elemental mage type deck and convert some of the new cards into it, and I was able to successfully get to 8 and 9 cards in hand and play the new mage cards where hand size matter, and they were not impressive. Everything has a lot of toughness right now. So the 6 mana 3/3, I dealt 9 damage to my opponent's stuff and it didn't kill everything. So I don't know if there's a better way to make your early game better, but I think the problem is you end up playing all of these cards that are lower on stats because they keep your hand somewhat full because they're all value-ish cards. So when you get to your powerful plays like the 6 mana 3/3, you're so far behind on board that even dealing 9 damage to all their stuff just doesn't matter enough. So we'll kind of see if that ends up having legs, but that was another deck I ended up trying and was not impressed with, sadly.
So, the thing that I've noticed that seems a little unusual is how much day one combo there's been. And I don't remember a meta where there's been this much combo on day one ever. And it's all there's various levels of jank, but there's so many different combo finishes that we're seeing from various different decks that I really am hopeful that the aggressive strategies will continue to be developed like they have been. We've seen Oddro get a little bit better, and various rogues improve kind of as a safety valve against all these slower controlling and combo-y decks. I think Zoo has been popular not just because of inertia, but because it really preys in a lot of these slower combo-y decks. And we're seeing Tempo Mage pop up a little bit. The more aggression into the meta, really this meta is going to be defined within the next month or so by how capable the aggressive tools are of fighting against the existing defensive tools a lot of these combo-heavy decks are running. Spreading Plague is still kind of it might actually be what holds the format together or what tips it over entirely. If it's just enough to stop the aggro decks from completely overrunning things, then we're good, but I think there's enough anti-aggro tools in the format to be successful. The question is, are the aggro tools themselves good enough to stop a deck that wants to do nothing until it kills you? And I think the answer is yes, and I hope the answer is yes, but we're close enough. I know it's just day 2, but we've seen enough combo that all it takes is for it to be a little bit more optimized and for the aggro decks to not be capable of pushing harder for combo to kind of topple over and be a danger to the format. I don't think we're going to get there soon. And I hope that the volume of Druid that we're seeing is just, again, a day one reaction. But there's a lot going on with not interacting with the board state. There's Inner Fire Priest, there's multiple Mechathune decks, there's Togwaggle Druid, there's Malygos Druid, Token Druid is kind of a combo deck, and there's a lot of different things going on that are all about killing with limited board setup and just full defense. I'm hopeful that those will be countered by the dawn of aggressive decks that can really compete in a method that matters because they actually have to pivot on the anti-aggro tools they're seeing based on what's being played in the format. And I'm sure that control decks and mid-range decks will be able to prey on what pops up after that evolution. But I really hope that combo doesn't keep developing as well in a way that is unhealthy for the format because there's a lot of it right now.
Is it weird that after what you just said, I just really want to play more Q block right now? Because it feels like it handles the aggressive decks quite well, and also just the slower or it just seems faster than a lot of the combo decks, and the threats that you present in that deck seem very difficult for a lot of these combo decks to deal with.
I'll answer your question with another question. If Q block was the best deck in the format, would you think the format was healthy?
No.
Appa?
I'm not sure.
Me neither.
Block has lots of strengths and weaknesses. I hope it's like good enough to be like really solid again. Because I haven't played it a ton since the nerfs, and I played it a ton before the nerfs. I played so much Q block. Oh my god, I love that deck.
And you set up an amazing board state in the finals of the tournament that you won, even though he top decked the Nether after you got 4/8/8 Giants. Still won.
You saw my eyes go back into my head during
that
clip, right?
I was busy rolling my eyes so hard that I didn't see you roll your eyes till I watched it back.
Yeah, but I don't know. Q block, I feel like Q block now occupies a fairly healthy space, as weird as that is. Because it's just slow enough to be slightly weak against aggro, and then has like just enough tools against the slow decks to be sticky enough and develop threats enough to where, I don't know, I think if it was the best deck, I think that would mean that the format is really underpowered. I don't think that's going to be the case. But
yeah, it's tough to say. I agree with you. It's if what matters is there the rise of unbeatable combo, or is it combo mirrors, or is it beatable combo? Like if there's if the format is all about decks that you can beat if you want to, that's fine. But if there are decks that you can't beat unless you give up your matches against everything else, then it's not fine. Don't know which way we're going to go. I'd like to think that it's going to end up being healthy because the Witchwood meta was similarly low-powered, and this whole year so far feels like an active effort to turn down Hearthstone's overall power level, which I really, really like. I just hope that these Druid decks in particular don't just tip the little bit they need over the scales. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we're going to just have to find out in the next couple weeks how everything's going to pan out.
Y'all, I'm so excited. I was so excited to get on this podcast to talk about Boomsday. Now I'm excited to get off the podcast so I can go play more Boomsday.
Right?
Same.
Yeah. I totally said, well, 4 hours of sleep is fine for tonight, right? I guess it was. I'm still here.
That's every night for you, Hat.
Not every night. Shut up.
It's most nights.
I'm actually kind of surprised that our discussion for this episode, the post Boomsday expansion, talking about decks and impressions and everything, is shorter than just like random episodes we had during the Witchwood. Because we're like an hour and 40 minutes right now. We haven't like edited anything out in post yet. So we are making good time.
Well, keep in mind, we had one tournament that no one wanted to listen to, and we had very few news items because everyone just wanted the Boomsday, and we didn't have a host.
Fair point.
And we didn't have to argue about reviewing cards. We had to argue about how they were acting, and reality is much easier to deal with than theory. And we all just want to get off this podcast and go play. So this is all getting edited out.
Yeah, so I think that's going to do it for Decksplanations for now. We have an email from Bad Beats GL. They sent us an email, and we'll be including it in next week's bonus episode, which will be recorded on the 13th. And that'll probably be, when will that be distributed, do you think?
After the 13th.
Wednesday? Sometime after the 13th.
Yeah, I'm on
After the
vacation that week, but that's also the night that a certain thing comes out. It's called Battle for Azeroth, so I'm not going to commit to any kind of time frame. If you want to ask me questions, you'll find me on Mal'Ganis on the Horde side. I'll be wearing my outfit that day will be morally gray. Be all moral gray. But we'll have Discord discussions out next Monday, and I want to take the time now to apologize for anyone that downloaded the podcast early last week. The compression format that I used in the MP3 made it seek very strangely and show as a 13-hour-long episode in many of your podcast readers. There were many jokes at our expense about trimming down the show's episode length, but also that said, I assumed it was a classic set review of every card, and all three of us went, wait a minute. So, depending on how many questions you send in, there may or may not be monthly classic set review episodes. And the Rogue episode may actually be 13 hours.
So I have 2 ideas for bonus episodes. And I'm going to pitch them on the show right now because I want to hear feedback on Twitter and in emails to this. So one is the classic, basic and classic card reviews. And then one is, I got this idea actually from Channel Fireball, which is a Magic site that produces a lot of content for them, but top 100 Hearthstone cards. I think that would be so much fun to settle out and punch out a list for that and talk about it.
There's no chance of that coming to literal blows at BlizzCon.
Star City did it first.
Oh, well, I don't care. It would be fun for Hearthstone.
Yes, there is nothing that I love more than arbitrary rankings and semantic arguments. So if you want both, come to those episodes of Concede. Oh boy, that would be fun and a very good test of our friendship.
How just getting the list together would take forever.
It would all be pre-nerf, obviously.
Yeah, I'd go over the list with Wicked Good, and I would 100% end up with that friendship being over. Because he'd want to try and have some kind of discussion about the priest cards. I'd be like, get out! Get out!
He would have some more than 2 or 3 priest cards in the top 100, and we'd just tell him to leave.
I mean, there are 2 priest cards in Classic that are good, and they both cost 1. One is Northshire Cleric, one is Power Word Shield. I'm gonna mark this. I'm gonna mark this to edit out because just nothing good can come of this.
Y'all play with Raza, right? See, it's happening already.
Appa, what have you done? What have you done? We spent more time this than the actual news segment of the show.
We need this episode. All right, let's get out of here before we go down this freaking rabbit hole. Hit us with the outro, Pat.
How long can this go on?
I'm here. I hit the wrong button. All right. So, it's Boomsday o'clock, but first, it's thanks o'clock. We want to say thanks to Stefan L for letting us use his cover. Check him out on his channel, link in our show notes. Big thanks to Hearthstone Top Decks, BeerBrick.com for Decklists, Hearthstone Tournaments on YouTube for tournament VODs, and HS Pro Decks, Robot Moon, and Meta Legend. They're great for getting up-to-the-minute information. Show notes for this week's episode are on our website, coinconcede.com. You can support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.tv/coinconcedepodcast. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, you can head over to shop.coinconcede.com. But by the way, new shop coming at Dad Legend. Ben Reddington has partnered with us. The Coin Concede logo design is on sale right now at dadlegend.com, and more shirts will be transferred over to that store. The prices will be lower. It'll be shared with the community members you know and love. The shirts will be pretty and high quality, and buy stuff, please. Thank you. Big thanks to our producers, Viriatus, Arrow, and...
It's so fluffy!
Coin Concedes. Someone go first.
I'll go first. My coin concede. Just gonna segue into is Ben Reddington for partnering with us and being a cool dude overall. I remember he sent me a sweet care package of awesome Dad Legend stuff, and I still use the glass he sent me. I still wear the shirt. I love all of it. Send me more, please. It's so great.
Good coin concede. Good coin concede. How about you, Botticus? What you got?
Okay, so I have to apologize to some of the listeners because on last week's show I said I was going to be going to the pre-release, and then I found out that I thought you could build whatever decks you wanted with just the cards you open. It turns out you can build whatever decks you wanted with only the cards you open and classic cards, and I was pretty disappointed because that's not really what I wanted to do at the pre-release. So I made the decision to end up not going. And so I apologize if you wanted to see me there, but I wanted to coin concede to Oggs HS. He sent me a message saying that he was excited to meet me there, and I feel bad because I didn't go. But anyway, coin concede to you. I hope you had a great time. I hope everybody had a great time at the pre-releases, but it was not going to be for me.
Makes sense. And I also would like to issue a similar apology to those of you in New York City because I was planning on going, and then I finished editing the podcast at 6:36 a.m. that day, and I had work at 2:45 p.m., and I elected involuntarily to sleep through my alarm that was set for the pre-release. I did make it to work on time. I know you were worried. Well, I was 15 minutes late. It's fine. Don't tell my boss. He knows. It's okay. So, but big shout out to a person that was there, Jetlaw.
It's a roller coaster of emotions.
Right? There was a lot going on. It was fine. It worked out fine. So, Jetlaw, who was there at the pre-release, he won first place, and he got a print of... What is this? A print of Frozen Throne. It's all the Death Knights. It was so cool. And he won because he's a winner. Big props to Jetlaw. Big props to Ben Reddington for obvious reasons. Big props to Adam over on Tier 5. I guessed it yesterday. I guesterdayed, which is a word I just made up, on Tier 5 because Rod was visiting his family and Adam had me on the show for day 1 of Boomsday. And it was great. We had a lot of fun talking about our day 1 impressions. I actually had played 0 games when I went into it, but I opened my packs and hoarded Decklists like the scoundrel I am. And it was a ton of fun, so definitely go check it out. And Wizbang...
Hey, real quick, I just want to say that, I give Hat a lot of crap every once in a while, but I was refreshing my podcast feed all day today because I knew that you were on Tier 5, and it is just such a joy, and I understand why our listeners love you so much, to listen to you on that cast, because I could listen to a repeat of this. I'm very fortunate to have you on the cast, but every time you guest on another cast, I just really enjoy listening to it. So it was a great episode. I didn't get to finish the whole thing, but I was super excited to hear you on Tier 5, and you should all definitely go listen to it because it was a great episode.
Botticus, I'm gonna cry. Thank you. It was fun. You should go listen to it. It's the Tier 5 guys are great guys, and it was really enjoyable to be a part of that day 1 excitement, and also be a little less family friendly, way less family friendly.
I have been asking Rod since we took a vacation to Cancun together to get me on the podcast, and he said, "Yeah, I'll get you on." So I'm waiting, Rod. I am ready to unleash my assault on the Hearthstone world. You're not ready for my sailor's mouth.
Well, and
I have to be PG-13 most of the time, but I want to get on. I just want to get on Tier 5 and just have fun with. I want to be on Tier 5. Please invite me.
And I want to point out as well, I hope you're on soon because the deck list that I retweeted most recently today was a Lorewalker Cho Kingsbane rogue that's apparently good in standard.
Yeah, this meta is nonsense.
Right?
This meta is just
listeners,
total nonsense.
Listeners, listen to me. If there's any card that you craft last, it should be Lorewalker Cho. If you craft it all, do not make Lorewalker Cho. If you have a ton of extra dust and you make it, it is inadvisable at best to make Lorewalker Cho. But someone hit top 15 legend, top 15 today with Kingsbane Cho Rogue. I'm not kidding. It actually happened.
I think crafting priority goes everything else, and then Flark, and then Joe.
Yo, Flark Hunter
What?
is for real.
No, yeah, Flark isn't that bad. Holy. I mean,
No,
Millhouse Mana Storm
was-
is right alongside there with Nat Pagel and
I was
Cho,
just-
all
I
of
was
these
just
two drops.
making a joke and a reference to what Hat said earlier in the show.
I also want to
Sorry.
point
Don't
out
take it literally.
the person that tweeted this list said top 15 Kingsbane Rogue, good luck. So be aware. Be aware.
That man straight up said good luck.
The emote you're looking for here is called Jebaited. So please exercise extreme caution. Keep all your hands or all your arms and legs inside the Kingsbane Rogue at all times, and hold on for dear life because no one knows where their ship is going. So shout out to that guy, and shout out to Wizbang the Wonderful, because the amount of unbridled positivity I have seen on Twitter about this card has been exceptional. And so many people are like, I don't know what to do. I got this Wizbang. I'm gonna Wizbang on day one and just play and play and play, and it's so much fun for everyone involved. Really glad the card exists, and the net positivity it has brought is awesome. And those
Rest
are
in
my
peace.
Yeah.
Wizbang is Wizband.
But he's not banned from our hearts, and he's not banned from the ladder, and both are very important places. Wizbang is the king of the ladder, and Togwaggle is the king of both the catacombs and the tournament scene. So, contact info. Botticus, tell us where we can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BotticusHS. And you could also follow me on Twitch because I stream for the first time in a long time. Expect more of those. Twitch.tv/Botticus.
Appa?
You can find me on Twitter at Appa_HS. I just hit 780 followers. Slowly approaching 800.
Whoa.
And then on Twitch at twitch.tv/AppHS. And I've streamed the past 2 days. And I plan on streaming in my free time, because this expansion has been awesome. And my streams have been fun, because my friends hop in the chat, and then we talk about awesome decks and things. And it's a lot of fun. So come follow me on Twitch, and then be alerted when I go live so we can talk about stuff. What about you, Hat? Where can people find you?
You can unfortunately find me at work tomorrow, but after that, you can find me on Discord, wherever Hearthstone is discussed, at RidiculousHat. You can find me on Twitter at RidiculousHat. You can find me on Twitch at RidiculousHat. You can find me on the ladder through Monday night, and then you will find me on vacation, yet still somehow sleep deprived, because I'll be between the ladder and Azeroth, which are two wonderful places to be. I'm done talking.
Oh, I thought I didn't realize you just jumped off the end of the sentence there. I thought you were still going.
You're the anchor.
All right. You're right. That was my job. I screwed it up. I'm sorry, patrons. Don't hate me.
It's okay.
Okay,
You're
anyways.
thinking about new decklists because you refuse to accept decklists from outside sources.
Fact, actually. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm waiting to go hop in bed, cuddle, and make decks and watch TV. Anyways, keep calm and boom on. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory. You win. I can rest now. You win. For now.
No, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.